Hello, everybody. Welcome into this episode, this very, very special episode presented by the Halcyon The Legacy Continues team. We are very excited all to be together and just to chat about what was, what's to come, and this new year and new event time. It's 2025 already. It's about damn time we take it off the right way. So I am Tom Oakrey, also known as Elias Orion. I have a cast of fantastic people and characters joining me. So I'm just going to shut up and introduce everybody who's on the call, and we're going to get to talking about what's to come, who we are. If you're listening to this for the first time and you don't know who the hell these people talking right now about my beloved Lady H and immersive entertainment. Well, you're going to find out. Joining us, and like I said, a cast of characters directly. I'm just going to go randomly first. I see directly across from me, Rachel Ashbrook, aka our Night Sister, daughter of Dathomir, Vesper Gray. Vesper, Rachel, how the heck are you tonight?
Hey everybody. Tom, I'm glad that you went ahead and picked me first because Vesper can be kind of a bit of a prickly character. So I think she would appreciate being called out and recognized first. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm excited that it's a new year, and that means we've got a whole new year for events and community getting together with the Star Cruiser community.
Hell yeah. And we're excited to share that. Thank you so much, Rachel. And you're going to hear me call out the character names. We're going to get into backstories and who they are in a little bit. But I want to let you know who else is on the call directly to my left, to her right, I suppose, is Betsy Chapman, aka Bex Malbeth. Bex, how the hell are you tonight? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to some new challenges this year and lots of adventure. And Bex, she's kind of quiet, but we'll see if we can get her a little bit involved this year.
Well, I already approve of the attire that Bex has chosen on this audio only podcast, but we see the shirt that you're wearing, Betsy.
Well,
So
thank you.
yes, and I'm going to make sure that somebody on the call sees that in just a second. Directly over.
Oh, I'm in trouble already then.
Yeah, you are directly over to the right. All the way to the end is Thorn in My Side, for many reasons, but Evan T. Boucher, aka Avant Varick. Avant, Evan, how the hell are you tonight, my guy?
Good journey. I am great. I'm excited to talk about what we have coming next for all of us to enjoy, but for all of our friends who come to these events to enjoy. Because I've had a few message me saying they're excited to see what we have to come out with, and I'm excited to see what this insanely talented group has come up with.
Me too. I couldn't have said it better myself, Avant. And we'll get back to you in your first order atrocities in a moment. But I need to introduce somebody who I promise I'm not forgetting his name tonight. That's Joe Kramer, aka Resh Drolik. Resh, Joe, how the hell are you tonight?
I am fantastic. Ready to speak English instead of my native binary, but doing great. Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Very happy to have the Droid Smith aboard. And of course, we wouldn't be complete without some support from Resistance. Megan Shamert, aka Shmi Balaka. Shmi, Megan, how the hell are you tonight?
I am doing great. Glad to be here. This is my first ever podcast, so
Woo.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, congratulations. And just like every other mid-30s white man, now it's going to become a problem for you. So welcome to podcasting. Last but not least, and I'm probably saving her on purpose, but Aaron Kramer, aka Zilla Niraz. Zilla, how are you doing tonight?
Let's keep it civil this evening. I'm doing great, but nobody has asked you, Tom. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, I appreciate that. I was doing fantastic till about 20 seconds ago, Zilla. So thank you so much. No, I'm kidding. I'm
what
doing
did we
fantastic.
say about civility?
Okay, I suppose I will edit that out. No, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm really excited. I was probably being annoying and up everyone's butt and to the left. Around the holidays, because I'm just excited. I'm talking about this project team here. I'm so excited about what we could do next. We had these past two events in October, and that was on the heels of our first event in March. And each time we do it, me personally, and I don't know about you guys, I learned something about myself, right? And pulls the creativity piece out of me, just like I think Lady H has done for us so much. Rachel, if you don't mind, if I pick on you, um, we are Halcyon The Legacy continues. Could some people might not know who we are exactly, and they're listening to this. Would you mind just kind of giving them a elevator pitch of who the heck these scoundrels are?
Oh, an elevator pitch. I think I logged out of work 15 minutes ago. No, so who we are, we're just a bunch of super fans of the Galactic Star Cruiser. Some of us voyaged together, a few of us were friends before the Star Cruiser, but we're just people that the Star Cruiser brought together. We all really enjoyed our voyages on the Star Cruiser, and I think for a lot of us, it just unlocked a sense of creativity and passion for that creativity that I know, not to speak for anybody else, but for me, that had kind of been locked away as I work in the corporate world. And I think it gives us a creative outlet and a space to come together as a community. And so no one told us we couldn't. So we decided that we wanted to put on these, we kind of call them story events. It's like kind of immersive storytelling. We decided to just hold these events, see if anybody would show up. People did show up for the first one. I think everybody had a great time. The participants and all of us, we all had a blast, and we decided that we were going to continue with the creativity in the community. And so we've just kept it going. And I think I do speak for the entire group when I say I think we're going to keep doing these events as long as the community has a good time. And even if just one person signs up and shows up, we're still going to run it, and we're still going to have a great time.
Yeah, Elias is going to give it just as much to all of you. If just one person shows up, I'm going to make sure that I give it to the first order. I'm looking at you, Yvonne. So you mentioned that creative piece, Rachel, right? And it gave us the ability to create our characters who have kind of grown from the Halcyon. I know some of us carried characters over that we built on the ship, others did not. There's some of us have played a few, but it's that creativity part. So we're going to talk about some story here, but I'd like everybody to maybe get a little bit familiar with who our Halcyon legacy characters are first, and I'll call it a turbo lift pitch now, guys. Okay, calm down in the chat there. Okay.
I'll be happy to give everyone an idea of who your character is.
Why don't you start then, Zilla? Go right ahead.
Oh,
Absolutely.
We can describe each other's characters.
We can describe each other's characters. Now, I think in the interest of keeping this PG, I should stick to describing my own instead of describing Lias. My character is a private slicer. I work for whoever has credits to offer, and sometimes I'll work for an exchange if we can come to an arrangement. I'm really not too picky. I don't like to judge other people and the choices that they make. So I've worked with many different organizations in the past. Zilla loves her work. She gives discrete access to intractable systems all over the galaxy. Unfortunately, Zilla made, and this doesn't happen often, she did make a mistake in her youth, and she happened to get involved with a certain criminal organization that goes by the name Crimson Dawn. And unfortunately, she has been on the run more or less. Things keep leading back to Batuu. So that's what's going on with Zilla. And I had some excellent help from several team members who were willing to overlook my past indiscretions.
Was Zilla ever aboard the Star Cruiser? Was that a transferring character or is it a new character?
No, Zilla was never aboard the Halcyon. Zilla has traveled on the CSL Sojourn, another CSL ship, and aboard the CSL Idol, but she was never on the Halcyon. I played different characters.
I like that. I like that a lot, and that's what I love too. We're meeting a bunch of you participants, you players, and learning about your characters in character and hearing the backstories. Not a lot of people were on the Halcyon, right? I mean, a lot were, but there were still some that are like, no, I heard about it, and I love that. I like the intricacies and the different paths that people are taking with Star Wars lore, which is endless if you think about it. So, well, thank you, Zilla. So let me just, I'll turbo lift pitch Lias Orion real quick so we can let everybody else shine. So Lias Orion lost both of my parents at a young age on Takodana. Maz Kanata took me in. I don't believe in the resistance, or Lias doesn't believe in the resistance because Mon Mothma lied to him straight to his face and said his father'd be okay when my father died at the Battle of Jakku. So was taken in by Maz Kanata on Takodana and just kind of grew up with my sister kind of raising her. The Battle of Takodana, I lost my sister, and that's what more or less forced my hand in Elias's hand into creating the cause, which is just basically an outlet for those who didn't want to seek the fist of the First Order and those who didn't trust the shaky resiliency of the resistance, because Elias specifically didn't believe in Mon Mothma and Leia Organa, who has the connection to Mon. So the cause is like a separate, not a separatist, partisan, but not so blowy uppy as Saw Gerrera was. Not a cult. I want to assure you, it is not a CLUT cult yet. We're waiting for our approval from the Senate.
Yep.
I had to get the credits in. The Arabesh was just drying, but anyway, we're getting off track. That's what you do a lot with Migzilla. So the cause is specifically for those who don't want to. I'm not even going to look at what whoever said that was. The cause is the choice for those who want more than just what the one side or the other, the bad or good. It's kind of doing your things in the shadows. It's I'll say this for future players of our events. I'm not going to tell you why Lias and Zilla don't like each other here on the call, but ask us out there when we're out there on the playing field out there on Batuu.
Ask me.
I see. I said ask us. I wasn't being,
I don't want the people to be lied to.
They're not going to be lied to. They're going to be told the truth. They're not going to be told alternative facts from Zilla.
Can't spell Lias without lie.
Yeah, you can't spell the font without shut the hell up. So you're going last. Well, thank you for listening to my pitch.
Was Lias aboard the Star Cruiser?
Yes, Lias was aboard the Star Cruiser. Thank you for reminding me there. Lias had Lias had two really important conversations on the Star Cruiser with Saja Fenn and Captain Keevan. Lias holds Captain Keevan in high regard. And if you'd like to know about those conversations I had or Lias had, please feel free to ask him next time you see him. So thank you, Mr. Avant. Resh Drolik. Joe, tell us about the Droid Smith. That's the last time Lias is going to remember that name, by the way.
Exactly. I'm surprised I'm next. So I play the character Resh Drolik. He's an independent droid smith on Batuu. Come and find him, and you can see him conveniently forget about Lias yet again. There's a fun running joke where Lias only cares about his people, Resh only cares about his droids, and therefore they keep continuing to forget about each other. Nothing malicious. They're just doing their own thing. So every time they run into each other, it's the first time, even it's been 5 minutes. And so, yes, Resh is an independent droid smith. He is often running around with his sidekick, SLV6, also known as Salvage. You'll find him on his shoulder, probably providing better color commentary and is obviously the smarter of the two heads in that pair. But Resh is a good guy, always there to be on the side of any droid anywhere. He's independent because he just can't bring himself to sell his friends. But he always tells his droids, if you need anything, you always go back to Mubos. Mubos is one of the good ones, and Resh will pay off the debt. Just tell Mubo, put it on Resh's tab. Resh will figure it out. So Resh is there to help any droid, anywhere, anytime.
Perfect. And I'll ask for Evan. Was Resh on the Halcyon?
Resh was not on the Halcyon.
Okay.
So Resh has never been off world. He's met all sorts of fancy people coming through Batuu, but Resh only knows Batuu, and making sure he gets all those little sand and grit out of all those little droid orifices. It happens.
It's tough. Happens to BD-72, but I know Resh remembers him very, very well. So he treats him well.
Bring him by, we'll give him an oil bath and an overhaul.
You got it. He doesn't need an overhaul, I promise you that. I might need to ask you to change his personality chip. He's a little chippy with Lias. Ever since he had some card stuck into his ear. The poor guy. So all right. So let's we were talking about the resistance not that long ago. So Megan, I want to know all about Shmi Walaka.
Well, Shmi Walaka is the daughter of a minor Alderaanian nobleman, Tor Walaka, and a wild space orphan, Lavina. And she has been raised to know all about the high class society of Alderaan in the inner core, but she can also hang out in wild space, outer rim. So she's really learning to dance in between those two worlds and to find her own place. She was aboard the Halcyon. She originally went on the Halcyon to try and make some business contacts, but also because she had heard that there were people who had information about the Force aboard the Halcyon, and some incidents in her life led her to believe that she might be a sensitive, and she wanted to explore that. Eventually, she did formally join the resistance because she felt that that was the best path to both explore her Force sensitivities and to help the universe in general. As a proud Alderaanian, she is very dedicated to preserving the heritage and the culture. And so she is interested in finding artifacts and people from Alderaan or who have an Alderaanian connection. And her father and her collect pieces of Alderaan from the debris fields that have some sort of element of beauty to them, even though they're from destruction, they've retained beauty. And she passes them along to anybody she finds who is Alderaanian or a friend of Alderaan. And her father's goal is to make sure that everyone always has a piece of home.
That's awesome. I remember when Shmi was handing those out. That was so cool. Love the story. So excellent job. So I will go directly on the other side then and speak to our first order relic raider, Evan. Avant Rylas Varick. Tell us all about Avant.
Yeah, I mean, Lias might say that he is vileless. I'm sure that's a thing he said about him. But Avant is from Chandrila, and the whole Mon Mothma thing that Lias views and feels is one of the few things Avant agrees with him with. He doesn't like Mon Mothma either because Mon Mothma started the whole demilitarization of the New Republic and the mobile capital. So the capital was on Chandrila, but it was her choice to take the capital off Chandrila. So Avant didn't like that. He was looking for a way to make sure his home was safe. So he kind of helped the First Order establish a presence on Chandrila. Throughout whatever process that was, he got the position of the regional governor of Chandrila of the First Order, and then because of that, he was kind of gifted a journey on the Star Cruiser on the Halcyon, and on that journey itself, seeds were kind of planted.
No doubt paid for by the taxpayer.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes, of the many taxpayers of Hannah City and all of Chandrila. But on that very voyage, his dedication to the Order was kind of put in question. But he couldn't fully steer out of it because obviously there is probably a little bit of safety problems if that happens. So he came out of that still wanting to move up through the First Order and become a relic raider, like Tom had just mentioned. So in doing so, he hunted down some artifacts, and he's got a little collection that he's kind of established. And the First Order has kind of noticed that dedication and given him a promotion to relic raider. Not quite what he wants, but he's getting there. But like I said, seeds of doubt have been planted. He's got entangled in this organization called ARC, which if you were a part of our second and third event that we hosted, that was a big part of the storyline was ARC. So this organization kind of got in his ear and has further pushed those seeds of doubt in the order, and they're also kind of after artifacts like he is, like Avant is. So Avant isn't really sure where to go from here. He still wants to find these artifacts, but that's kind of the path he's on at the moment.
And Avant and Elias had a very tense stare down at the sabacc table in the sublight lounge.
That they did. That they did. So if you want to ask Avant next time you see him who he talked to on the Star Cruiser that might have kind of led him down a path away from the Order, that'd be an interesting conversation to have. Some of it would be Elias, but other characters too would probably come up. But talking to like Shmi last event that he did too, that was an interesting conversation where it seemed the Alderaanian people somehow returned, the Dathomir Night Sisters somehow returned, everybody somehow returns. So if you want to ask him about that too, that's always a fun conversation.
Thank you, Avant. Speaking of Dathomir and Night Sisters, Rachel, tell us all about the daughter of Dathomir, Vesper Grey.
Yeah, I do feel like I need to give a quick shout out to Lieutenant Rook, who I feel like
Please do.
taking a little bit of a backseat because I am perhaps a notorious character flip-flopper, and I can't. There's just so many good characters. I just can't focus on one of them. Lieutenant Rook was in the very first story event that we held. She was part of the Resistance. She had been part of the Rebellion before that. She was on the Halcyon. She was on there with her loyal sidekick Porkins, who is also a celebrated and much decorated X-Wing pilot from the Rebellion days. But yeah, so that's just a quick reminder that Lieutenant Rook is there and she's still kicking. Vesper Grey, she likes to be mysterious and she prefers to keep it that way. She's not a big one for making friends. She just has the feeling that she can do everything that she needs to do, and sticking your neck out there, getting friends, getting allies. That's just kind of a way to get hurt or to have mistakes be made. But during this last event, she kind of started to figured out that there were good people in the galaxy and that people were willing to help her, even though she was very tight-lipped and didn't really give those people a lot to go off of. But yeah, she's just trying to find one of her mothers who has been gone for a long time, disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Her other mothers would never discuss it because I think they were afraid that she would go chasing off after the missing mother. And during the last story event, when she finally opened herself to making friends and allies, they were able to successfully recover a Dathomiri artifact. It wasn't exactly the artifact that she was looking for, but it did open her eyes to working with the team. And no, sorry, Vesper was never on the Halcyon, and she is continually mystified and confused that every single person around her seems to have gone on it, yet she never had the chance.
That's one of my favorite lines in one of our YouTube videos, and that's a shameless plug right there, youtube.com/@Halcyon Legacy. Thank you. If you go check it out, it's in our finale video right before our event. It's the way Vesper delivers a line like "Your precious Halcyon," like kind of just like, what the hell does everybody keep talking about this Halcyon about? I always that was one of my favorite parts of the video. So thank you for Vesper. Anything more you want to talk about Lieutenant Rook or Vesper, or can we kick it over to Bex?
Nope, I'm pretty good. Just maybe now that Lieutenant Rook has seemed to take a back seat, Porkins is no longer a sidekick. And he's kind of a free agent out there. So you never know. You never know what he's going to be up to or what he's got up his sleeve.
Just stay away from Crimson Dawn. Porkins, please God. So finally, Betsy, Bex, Melbeth, saving the best for last.
Ah,
So because she's a loyal member of the cause. But go on, Bex. Tell us all about Bex.
all right. Well, there's not a lot Bex will say, because we don't want to give too much away. But I will say, I was born on Odessan, which is a place where the force is kind of in balance, and we study that a lot uh, as children. Which is great. The problem is that Bex doesn't do so well at sitting around studying and meditating and doing that stuff. So she kind of got kicked out of school. And that meant that she had to find another path through life. So she picked up some odd jobs and did this and that, and was very lucky to be targeted by a group called the Odessan Assembly to come to travel on the Halcyon, representing Odessan and trying to make some deals, shall we say. While she was on the Halcyon, you might have known her as Jax. She was traveling under an alias, but now she's back to her real name, uh, which is Bex, and has kind of put the business we did with the Odessan Assembly on the Halcyon behind her, although she is still in constant contact with half of that group. Hi, guys, who will be listening to this, so I have to give them a shout out. Since getting off the Halcyon, she kind of got stuck in Batuu, and she's looking for the right place to apply her skills. So she can bargain. She has done a little slicing in the past, but she's a little out of date with the current systems because it's been a while. She is willing to talk about credits and bartering and getting the job done. And I see we have several theories on how Bex got stuck in Batuu. And maybe you guys can help me remember, because I don't really remember what happened.
I couldn't say exactly, but I heard it from somebody who I think heard it from somebody else who I think heard it from somebody named Vi, that somebody named Bex got drunk at Oga's and her ship left without her. Like I said, second hand, third hand, fourth hand, but Vi's a friend of mine, so.
I will say that part of that bar tab that Wraith Cole had at the last event may have been caused by Bex. But I'm not sure. So we'll just leave it at that, because I don't want
drinking with Wraith Cole, all right.
Well, I had business to get done, and if you want to get business done, he's the one to talk to.
Allegedly.
Although while on
No
the
notes.
Halcyon, it was really Lenka Mock that she had the greatest interaction with. And Lenka did a lot to change the course of my life, I think, for the better. So we'll see what happens to Bex in the coming days. But if you have a deal that includes credits, no hangover, I'm there.
50
No
credits
hangover?
says Linka can drink Wraith under the table.
Oh, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Wraith talks a big game and can't really back it up.
That's true. I think you're right about that there, Joe. Thank you so much, Betsy. And I also wanted to make sure that we mentioned two characters who are not on with us, and that's Taylor Yasmar, our Force anchorite, and Jax Volta, our scoundrel, who helped us get rid of that tab that Bex was talking about on the first event. So let's start there. let's start there. The first event, real quick, because I kind of want to get to where we're at with Arc, because I think Evan mentioned it. That a lot of people spoke about Arc, and probably everyone's like, "What the hell is Arc?" If you weren't in our events and you want to know. But the first event, you had three recruiting agents: Lieutenant Rook, Lias Orion, and Avant Varick. They were tipped off by just different methods that there was a artifact passing through to Dakondar back on March 1st through Batuu. So each recruiting agent reached out, assembled teams, and along the way we ran into nefarious figures. Lias and Zilla had an infamous interaction. I know Lieutenant Rook and the Anchorite. Right before the finale, there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of stuff going on, but eventually the Resistance and Lieutenant Rook left off with the artifact, which ended up being, spoiler alert, Gaia's microphone. So the Resistance got its Leia or General Organa, and it was used for good. And now it brought us to the second part of the story. The story struck back, so to speak. And the two of those three recruiting agents, Lias Orion and Avant Varick, started to get random messages from an individual with a place known as just Arc to them. They didn't know what it was, but they were being secretly recruited for something, and they didn't know what it was. And then we found out Vesper Gray. We met Vesper Gray at Oga's Cantina. She had a very dark and crazy vision. There was a lizard. And she eventually found the other two recruiting agents before we got led into our event on Batuu. So there's a lot in that, a lot to unpack, because our events really from the first to second were pretty different, but in great ways. So Arc, Rachel, if I could throw it to you. These characters in our last event were being recruited by Arc. What is Arc?
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it, Tom?
Don't ask a guy named Mech. He won't tell you the truth.
Triggered. Ugh,
yeah, so ask a different character and you'll probably get a different response for what ARC stands for. They are a very shadowy organization. We can only guess that they've got a pretty high payroll behind them because they seem to have resources, they have knowledge, they have agents, they've got all sorts of stuff going on. I can only imagine that finding the prior artifact, Gaia's microphone, that must have put a couple of our agents onto ARC's kind of radar. I think during this last event, ARC might have just been feeling them out to see if they might be viable candidates to join ARC. ARC seems to be an organization that is very interested in artifacts and antiquities. It kind of seems like they might be on this side of the light here. They seem to have enjoyed giving the artifacts back to the planets or the peoples that they had been taken from. But I'm not entirely sure we can trust ARC. I don't, they're just in the shadows so much. I'm not really sure what their end game here is. Is anybody in the galaxy really that, that charitable and altruistic that they're just doing all these things to help out planets and societies? I don't know. They've got pretty shady agent working for them. I really don't know what that guy's deal is. He seems pretty shifty. So yeah, all I think we can say for sure is that ARC is just, they're interested in artifacts. They seem like they might be good guys, but I just don't really know if we can trust them. And I think we might find out more coming up.
Yeah, every character I think has a different sort of stake in ARC. And what they feel towards it right now. If I could speak for Lias Orion, he's probably one of the more heated people at Rake Ignis, specifically for tricking him that he was mechanics and he could trust him. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot to flesh out. And just like you had mentioned at the end of our event, members who ended up helping Lias Orion in the cause, we found our map to Tanalor, and finally free safety from the fist of the First Order and the ideas of the Resistance. Avant, did you want to speak about what your team found at the end of your event?
Yeah.
Or
So
your task is that, and then I'll get to how we got there too,
yeah.
because I want to be able to speak to that.
Yeah, so the second event and third event that we ended up doing here in October was the one that featured Ark here and this sketchy figure who we found out his name is Rake Ignis, at least as far as we know. He might have a different name, but he's kind of heading this Ark organization and reached out to all of us to find these artifacts, potentially for him, maybe, or for whatever culture he says he's going to give it back to, if he does give it back to, like Rachel mentioned. But the team that kind of assembled to help Avant was tasked with finding this helmet, this piece of armor that could combat lightsaber technology, kyber crystal technology specifically. So through various means around the outpost, eventually we came together as a team and we found this helmet, which ended up being the helmet worn by the character of Chimere in the television show The Acolyte. So that was like kind of mind blowing for some of us as characters. Like we knew behind the scenes as Evan and Tom and all of us what it was, but as characters, Avant had no idea what it was. And then a couple of people on my teams did because we had like one or two that were like galactic historians as their characters, so they knew what it was. They could tell me about it. So it was mind blowing for them. And then for all of us that didn't know the characters, I was kind of like, since you know what this is, tell us about it. So then it kind of blew everyone's mind. So we ended up finding that, and then Avant wasn't sure if he should give it to the Order or give it to the Ark, but the Ark was pleased that he found it, is all I can say at the moment.
Thank you. And Vesper, what did Vesper's team help her find?
So we found an ancient Dathomiri lightsaber, which I believe is pretty rare. It was constructed out of parts given from a much loved Rancor, because the Dathomiri people revere and treasure their Rancors, who are oftentimes their companions. The lightsaber did not exactly lead Vesper back to clues about her mother or her mother's whereabouts, but what it did provide her was something to present to the kind of refugee Dathomiri community, and it was something that certainly brought her closer to all of them. So I know she was very grateful to have had the team around her that she did that helped her to find it.
Vesper was the character to be with at our last events. Zilla was last, but Vesper was the character to be with at our last events.
Not that you would know what was in fashion or not.
That's true. That's true. The cause never black and red. That's what we do. We're taking those colors back from the First Order. All right.
I was gonna say those are some pretty good colors.
And here I thought the cause was all about the shades of gray.
They are definitely shades of grubby, is what I learned from our last event.
Shades of grubby. Remind me of that one.
So it was in like our opening speech to our teams. I was like asking if any of them had ever dealt with the cause before. Avant was the character, and the players, the people in the team, kind of looked around, kind of confused. But one or two of them kind of like shyly raised their hands. And I'm like, all right, you know what these are? Like Avant's like, please tell us and describe the cause. And the character, the players were like, you could probably describe them as grubby. So
I'll take it.
So
I'll take it.
Avant kind of ran with that and used that for the rest of the night. He was like, "Hey, there's the grubbies over there. There's the grubs. There's the grubbiness." So that's kind of something that
Oh,
naturally stemmed from talking to players.
oh, I remember that. I remember that. We were near Zilla, and I came around the corner, and I had like three people screaming grubby at me, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on right now?" But
Yes.
I eventually took your fan away, so I was happy with that. That Zilla ended up with somehow.
And the
Well,
jokes
you could say you take your eyes off Zilla.
the jokes were made about the only fan. That's what it was. Yeah,
PG PG Avant. So we just mentioned Zilla. Zilla was roaming around Batuu during those events. She knew a little bit about Ark, but she knew a lot about Crimson Dawn too. So if folks came through Zilla on their way to helping their teams, what was Zilla helping these participants out with?
Well, nothing comes for free, as we know. And I did have a little bit of information, particularly about Varric, who causes me no end of trouble. What with one thing and another, sometimes it's
BFFs.
time. That is not correct. That's fake news. For us to move certain goods in and out. Now, I tell you who is dependable on this score is Bex Malbeth. You need something moved on or off the planet. Great choice. But she
Except
she
she
can keep
can't
her
move
mouth shut.
herself off the planet.
Well, that's maybe her choice. I think things are fairly lucrative for Bex. Anyway, I did have a little bit of information to share, but Zilla needed some help given this Crimson Dawn situation. She just needed some help figuring out who was on her side and who might be willing to turn her in. And I think that's all that Zilla is willing to share about her task at this time.
Ooh, probably the only thing I like hearing from Zilla. So
what you're saying, Tom, is less is more.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
I'm saying that. A dog is freaking out about something. So sorry. So yeah, the ADHD taking off there. So Resh
Probably freaking out about having to be in the same room with you.
most likely, and he's in another room. Thank you very much. So Resh, tell us all about what some of the participants were coming to the Droidsmith about.
Absolutely. So the participants coming to Resh, and while Resh may not know much of anything, his droids are everywhere. And the fun part about the droids is those little gonks. Those gonk droids are very gossipy and are often mistaken for an end table. So they often will have a drink rested on them, and then a number
Or
of
a
people
trash
just
can.
chatting away, or a trash can. Either way, and they will just stand there, soak it all up, and then go back to the other gonks, and it is all gossiping all the time. So, because the droids are very, algorithmic, they need input and then they'll give output. So, if they could get some help, they could get some information. And they had some friends out in the mines, about 9 days walk from Batuu, not worth trying to go to yourself. But they wanted to help some of those droids who'd never met a carbon or a human before. They wanted to help teach them how should you interact um, with a carbon. And so we had our various participants make photos and videos to teach how to interact with a droid, so we can then take those to the mining droids and teach them this is how you interact with a carbon. And so those gonk droids, when they got their due, they were able to come back, and they provided information about a little bit of everybody. They kind of they knew all the major players. They had seen the grubby Lias Cause folks. They had seen the uptight Avant folks, and they'd seen the mysterious and maybe confused Vesper folks. And we're ready to talk again. If you walk around Batuu, you just hear the droids just shouting out, talking about stuff. Most people are ignoring them, and they're out there going, "I know a thing, I know a story. Let me tell you." So just take that time to listen to the droids.
So you're saying Gossip Gonks is going to be a new TV show on the CW network?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Patent pending, by the way. I think we can run with that idea.
That's the SW network. Sorry.
The SW.
Followed by the spinoff called The Golden Gonks.
That works, yeah. A prequel to it or something.
Which, of course, would have to be filmed in Galaxy's Edge, because that's where the Golden Girls' house was. So it all comes full circle.
It all comes first up. There you go. Evan knows more about Golden Girls than I thought, but I'm also not surprised. So Shmi, if our participants were coming through the Resistance, maybe to get a little bit about Alderaan, what was Shmi tasking them or needing assistance with?
Well, Shmi, although she had recently joined the Resistance, her heart is still Alderaanian, and her people come first. And she had gotten information that there was a Alderaanian artifact being moved, and she needed help rerouting it. But because the crate was in part of a larger manifest, she needed to kind of test the waters and make sure that she could trust the people who are coming to her. And so she gave them a choice of to which item they wanted to send on to the Alderaanian people. And by that choice, she was able to know this person's an ally, this person isn't.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Very,
glad,
very.
I'm glad you mentioned choice too, because that was something that was very big.
Choices mattered on that past event. They exactly did. Thank you for mentioning that, Evan. That was something we actually got from some feedback that we'll talk about in a second. But I wanted to hear what folks who were going through Bex may have been doing or speaking to you about. So Bex, what were the players on their way talking to Bex Malbeth about last events?
Well, as Zilla correctly pointed out, I know how to get things moved around when needed. And when I had to make a hasty depart from Lady H, I had asked one of the Blue Crew to move a crate for me off the ship and somewhere in Batuu where I'd be able to get my hands on it. And I was, Blue Crew took care of that, as they did everything because they were so fabulous. And I got to Oga's and got a mat at Oga's that had a code on it. And the code told me where the items were. And so the people coming to me had to decode the code in Arabesh. Many of them got help due to weather and timing, but they had the weather and the timing been better, the weather particularly on Sunday, it was a pretty simple code. It had something to do with a crate across from Oga's. I don't know why anybody would think I would want a crate near Oga's, but there you are. They had to hack that crate, find out what was in it, and come back to me with a choice of one of the items that was in it. And once they made that choice, I was able to direct them to the next person to go on the next part of their quest. Because, I'm all about artifacts too, as long as there are credits in it. That's what I'm interested in. I don't
Respect.
take sides. So they had to hack something for me, come back, and then together we went our separate way. Together we went our separate ways. That makes sense. And their choices determined which path they took. Some were surprised at the path they ended up on, I heard afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were. I remember some people just kind of like not running over to the causes finale, but it just kind of like I'm supposed to be with you. Like, oh, hi, so and those choices and the free moving around were different from our first event, and that was based on feedback from our players. So Aaron, can you just give us a quick like what we've done with feedback in the past and what we always plan on doing with it in the future?
Right. So this was a really exciting thing for us. After our first event, we were able to get feedback. As Rachel mentioned, you never know how something like this is going to go over. And our feedback was overwhelmingly positive, which is great. But what we really wanted was what people wanted more or less of and how we could improve. So we really took the feedback that we got to heart, and the two things that people really requested were that they wanted to be able to move independently of a group. So during our first event, you kind of had to move with your faction leader, and that was partly because this was our first time. We really were not sure how this was going to work overall. But this time, we wanted to take in that feedback that we got, and this way people could really chart their own path, just like you would do on the Halcyon, where no one leads you over to engineering. You can try to get into engineering if you want to. And so we were able to incorporate that this time. And then the other piece of feedback that we all were really excited to incorporate and we all agreed with was the idea that a character or player's choices should matter as far as their end result. So similar to the idea of paths, while for our events, we don't really have a path that you go on. It's not really a smuggler path or a Jedi path or whatever, because you make your own decisions on who you want to talk to, what sources you want to speak to. But we did want to include that idea of each time you speak to a source, an information source, that what you do, what you say to them really makes a difference in what you're going to see at the end. So maybe for someone who came to Zilla, maybe that player is going to lean hard into why they sympathize with the First Order. If that's the choice that character makes, then I'm going to maybe ask them to help me with something. And the way they help me, or if they choose not to help me at all, that lets me know how they're playing that character. And it lets me, we used a way that we can assign that character to, you've made a choice that leans a little bit more, not necessarily light side, but a little bit more what we would think of as you're playing a resistance character. You're maybe leaning more First Order. Maybe you're leaning a little bit more in the direction of the cause. Gaia only knows who would want to do that, but someone might. And in this way, you come up with your own finale, what you see at the end, and the artifact that you eventually come to see in person. That's directly a result of what you did and what you said to the characters. So for someone who wants to come and play with us on May 3rd, keep that in mind. Every interaction that you have, every choice you make, you don't have to do what the character asks you to do. If you don't agree with that, or you want to do something different, try it and see what happens. That's going to make a difference to what you see at the end.
I'm so happy you said that. 1,000%. Can't echo that enough. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, and thank you for explaining that, Aaron. Evan.
And yeah, that feedback that we got was obviously huge because it allowed all of our players and all of our friends and all of our participants to walk around wherever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to. But on the flip side of that, it was great for all of us as characters and behind the scenes because it allowed us to walk around wherever, whenever, to whoever that we wanted to. So there was moments that Lias got to yell at Avant that were just unscripted. We just saw each other and yelled at each other. And then moments that Avant got to see Zilla and they gave each other a lot of flack and et cetera, et cetera. Like things that were not possible in that first event, the way it was structured. But because of that feedback that our friends and players gave us, that our amazing team got to make, mainly I'll shout out Joe, of course, because a lot of it was done through what he created, allowed us that freedom. And that gave us a whole nother element of like unscripted little vignettes, as you could say.
Thank you, Evan. And there's a segue to one of the last things I wanted to speak about and have Joe talk about, our data pad, which was a huge upgrade and it's just such a phenomenal job, man. Like thank you for doing that for us, and thank you for everybody who contributed to it, because it made the play, it just flowed so much easier. It flowed better. So tell us about the data pad, Joe. I'm done pumping you up there.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I definitely had a lot of help from many others. Everything from game design to art. I didn't do it alone, but I will speak to it. And it really, the two main pieces of feedback we were working off of that were kind of driving factors for the app was the free movement and choices matter. And we figured out we could feed two birds with one scone, and all that accompanied into boiling down to the absolute core kernel of what do we need to do that, which would be a player needs to be able to make a choice, and we somehow need to record that choice for future action. And with that little bit of kernel is enough to give us both free movement and choices matter. So, for example, let's say a player comes up to Resh, and Resh says, "Hey, I need your help. I need to teach the droids how to interact with carbons." And if you come back and say, "Here's pictures of us making friends with droids," great, you just that's probably more of a light side choice of how to interact with droids. If you come back with pictures of, and we made sure these droids knew they will always be subservient to us and need to fetch me a drink right now. Okay, that is also a valuable lesson for a droid, but that's probably more of a dark side choice. Great. I'm glad you're playing your character that way. And so now I, as Resh, can help get that choice encoded in the data pad. So some people may not have seen much of a difference. They maybe started light side, made light side choices, and in the end, the data pad said, "Hey, you're going to be light side," and they were like, "Yeah, I know. Why are you looking at me so funny?" But we definitely had at least, my one of my personal favorites was someone saying, I secretly signed up on the for the First Order, but actually in my heart I was with the Resistance, and I secretly made Resistance choices. So my they were with a friend that whole time, and they're like, I had to make sure he didn't notice I was secretly playing Resistance, and so it was always a secret. But he got to the end and he flipped on and he said, "All right, now what do I do?" And it said, I know you signed up with Avant, but I think you should go see Vesper. And his mind was blown that it figured it out, that it knew that he had been making those choices secretly. That to him, he thought he was the only one who knew he was secretly playing light side. And the app said, I see you. Your choices matter. You made that choice, and you go live into that choice.
And
And so
Avant does not like that, but Evan loves that. That's the whole point of what we wanted to do. So bravo.
And I can only hope we had more. I hope we have the opposite. That I'm not trying to judge any particular character arc. Actually, in fact, as far as character arcs go, there were many different badges you can earn in all different ways of interacting with this. We leaned into the gamification, and so actually there was a badge for character arc, which was if you signed up with one faction and by your actions ended up in another faction, you earned the character arc badge. So there were actually a total possibility of, I believe, 26 theoretical possible badges. They were not all earnable in a single event. Some of them are you've attended multiple events. So don't worry if you feel like you're like, but I didn't get all 26. We know. That's okay. Come back. There's more to do.
That's a good Batman voice, by the way.
Oh, we'll get there. Yeah, we'll if we have to get full Batman, we can go for it. But I realize this is the wrong podcast. This is this is not Fourth Mother Box. This is not Jedi Talk. This is Halcyon. So we'll come back for those. But yes, come back, play with this again. There's more to explore in the app. There's more we're adding in. We've got many more ideas. Some of them aren't feasible with current technology, but we'll get there. And we hope you can come play with us. And don't worry, for those of you who are like, yes, but the thing I hated about the Halcyon was the app. It's not always going to be app based either. That's okay. Yes. In fact, our original game design was entirely done with the Sabak deck, just to make sure we could do it with pen and paper, and that is also possible. So it doesn't have to be the app either, but the app gives us some freedom and flexibility as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that too. Excuse me, because a lot of our characters had like physical objects and physical tasks you could do. I know I made it a point to bring several little props that I could say, pull one or two players aside, be like, hey, I really trust you with this. I would like you to deliver this to Resh or whatever character, for example. So I made a point to do that. I know that we are discussing internally further props to use and further physical items and missions to bring in. So we have both. We have the app side, which is incredible, and then we have these props that are simple, like I brought this cool thing, but very much more complex props that we've been discussing that are going to be much more hands-on.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so great to be able to play inside of this community with other Star Cruiser super fans. Is just we're learning a lot of lessons. We're figuring out a lot of things that work in the tone work. The community has been so great and supportive. They've given us all this constructive feedback that we hope that we've been able to give back to all of them and give them a little bit of something that they're looking for. but speaking for myself, I am incredibly excited about the upcoming May event. With all of these lessons that we've learned from all of our past events and all of the great feedback that we still continue to receive. And that's another thing too. If you forgot to fill out the email feedback survey, or if you didn't get it, and if you did attend a prior event, don't hesitate to reach out to one of us and just, tell us what you would like to see, what you think would be fun. But I think we're all getting some great ideas for the May event. I think you'll see some things that are similar. I think you'll see some things that are new, and hopefully it's going to be a great time.
Oh, I think it's going to be a great time. I know it's going to be a great time, just what we've spoken about already, that no, we're not going to talk about on this podcast. So come out May 3rd, 2025, Batuu East, Disney's Hollywood Studios. Yes, you need to have your own admission. This is a free fan run event, not affiliated with Disney at all. We need to respect their rules, and we do. And our first 3 events that we've run have gone out off fantastically. Disney's been great. We've been great. We intend to keep it that way because we're just having fun and playing our characters.
And
they're on
all of our
Batuu.
players have been great too.
They have been.
Everybody's been very respectful. They have played well. They've come ready to play, and it's been great.
Yep, I've seen. I think there's been some cast members out there on Batuu who have appreciated the intensity of our players. So it's good intensity. It's getting into it and getting into the characters. So you guys have been fantastic. Oh, Megan, I'm sorry. Yes, what would you like to say?
I just want to say from the perspective of being a participant and then being a non-playing character, it was really awesome to arc my character that way and to be able to participate. And so thanks, guys, for inviting me in. This is the first time I've LARPed, and it was so much fun, and I can't wait for our next event.
Well, thank you for that. Something similar for Bex too. I know, because she was cause member and then now an NPC for us too.
Yeah, it's funny because in the LARPs I usually do, I'm almost always an NPC. So that time I played with you the first time was the first time I've gotten to play for like years, and that was great. But yeah, it is fun to take the character arc on and to play it as an NPC, play her as an NPC. So thank you guys for that, and I just can't wait for May 3rd. It's going to be fabulous.
That's right.
Absolutely. Come play with us. Come play with each other. I think that's some of the exciting part of the community is it's not just, player to, I don't know, us cast members, NPCs, whatever you want to call us. It's you can play with each other. Right? We saw a number of spontaneous team ups, which is fantastic.
Got to keep it PG. Can't go PG-13 there with that. Got to be careful. The phrasing.
Oh, this is out of character for me on podcast, but I'm going to take us steer us away from that. So
Hey, there you go. There you go.
guys have been fantastic. And I just want to personally say everybody on the call and even some folks who are not, getting the chance to do this with all of you and our participants has truly, truly been for me something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's been able to open up and create with all of you has been just insane. And just taking it to levels that I didn't even know I was possible. And I have a very high ego. So the fact that I was going to head over that's a joke, guys. I'm trying to edit on comedy, maybe. But you guys, thank you for that. And thank you to all our players. Thank you for listening to this. Follow us at Halcyon_Legacy on Instagram. Halcyon The Legacy continues Facebook chat. Or not Facebook chat, Facebook group. It's a private group. You have to ask and we'll let you in. You got a couple of questions to ask you. And then, of course, youtube.com/@Halcyon Legacy. We will see you May 3rd. Have a good one, everybody.